just got back from a Gamblers Anonymous meeting last week. And the first guy gets up there and says, wow, I had to come back in because I'm thinking about betting preseason football. But that's right around the corner, and the temptation will be dangling out there. And I'm sure the FanDuel people would love to tempt you into thinking that this was something you could make a spar on. I don't know that it is. And the man who would probably be on the opposite side of that argument joins us right now from Outkick.com. And, of course, Monster when it comes to any kind of NFL insight information. He's the number one guy. Mr. Jason Cole joins us here on the program. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I always thought that betting on preseason football is, without question, the lowest form of degeneracy.
You're talking to our audience here. That's saying a lot. We were betting Korean baseball during the pandemic. Yeah.
Knowing the audience for the show, I think that proves something.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, a little bit of a late start here on the East Coast. Jumped for us, Mike Lubitz, the dog. Shirley, what happened? Lubie?
Configuration of things. It's Monday.
Combination platter, huh? The poo-poo platter of gremlins and mistakes. All right, anyway, good to be with you here. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. I can't really concede that point to Jason Cole as much as we love Jason Cole. It is not the lowest form of degeneracy, betting preseason football. In fact, compared to some forms of degeneracy, it actually represents almost Mensa candidacy in terms of intellect. First quarter WNBA over-unders, that's a sick form of degeneracy. A lot of soccer betting, I would have to say. What boils down to sick forms of degeneracy. Another 0-0 thriller in Manila took place in the Women's World Cup, which Jim Sarney says people are still watching it. Believe it or not, Louie. Can you imagine? Who's even left in the field? I don't know. I happened to tune in, flipping channels, thinking I was going to catch something else, to the shootout, the penalty kick shootout. It's not a shootout, right? It's just penalty kicks. Between Australia and, what was it, Sweden? I don't know. Australia was one of the teams. I forget who the other one was, but they ended up going to like 10 penalty kicks. There were saves, there were shots off the post, missed shots on goal, and a lot of drama involved. And then Australia, the host country, moved on. So
Australia, France? Was this Australia,
France? Yeah. Is he French?
7-6.
French coach looks like a guy that should be on the cover of some romance novel, no? French coach. Does he do anything? I don't know, but he looks good in the part there. Wasn't able to do much. 0-0 through like 2 hours of dreadful soccer play, and then penalty kicks. Very exciting. I think they should just go straight to the penalty kicks, no? Play the anthems, both countries, have the little girls walk out holding hands with the players, introduce everybody, and then just go straight to penalty kicks. Why bother with this other nonsense there? 0-0. I don't want to get into knocking soccer, Lubie. It's too good of a day. We did have the first complete week of NFL football action, and Los Dolphins were involved, and I'm going to say stick a fork in the season right now, Lubie. All of my pessimism, I think, was well-founded as you watch the Dolphin scrubs get annihilated in their game. Actually, it was a close game, very boring game. I mean, all the way through for the most part, was it not? 100%. Watching these backups for the Dolphins exhibit, I would say, some level of ineptitude overall, although the score was not necessarily indicative of A, how boring the game was, and B, how evenly contested it was between the scrubs, because you had a punt return late for a touchdown, and that cost the Dolphins against the Falcons, and then a pick six subsequent to that. So all of a sudden you had 14 points. I don't know, did they get 13 or 14 out of that? I think it was 14.
I think it's 13.
Because the kickers, they were on vacation during the preseason games. They obviously maybe were being influenced by the people that were sending it in on over and under totals on the preseason games. But you could have gotten something out of it. I don't know. Well, what did you see there, Louie? You were texting me that the Dolphins just don't have any depth. That's possible. And I don't know. I thought Mike White was a pretty good quarterback as a backup acquisition. We're not going to be overwhelmingly confident in Skylar Thompson coming in, where we saw what that amounted to. They were remarkably able to be competitive and actually win some games with Skylar Thompson, but And while he was a hero of the preseason last year, and you said, whoa, how could that guy be in the 7th round? We see over the course of time and at the beginning of this preseason that, that guy belonged right there in the 7th round. A couple of picks before Mr. Irrelevant, who turned out to be a pretty good quarterback. So you never know. But not overwhelmingly impressive, and yet I came away feeling nothing, one way or the other, about that preseason game, except that it's one in the books, one and done. Surprisingly, you saw a lot of starting quarterbacks around the league actually see action, including Lubie. What did he do? I didn't see the beginning of that Chiefs game. Did he throw 2 dump passes and get out of there? 2 for 2 for 15 yards, Mahomes.
Oh, I didn't watch that at all. I saw that Jameis got a touchdown. I figured you wouldn't see Mahomes. Reed always does that. Like, he puts Mahomes out there for like 2 plays just to be an asshole. Like,
Mahomes says he likes to get out there and get a couple of snaps in during the preseason.
I hope he
Was
never
he in
gets
for more than 2 plays, or did he just go in, throw a couple of passes, and get out of there?
I don't know.
It's possible. We saw a lot of starters from different teams playing. Derek Carr with New Orleans, new situation. He was in there for at least, I guess, what? Did he play a quarter or something? 6 of 8 in his debut as a New Orleans Saint, at least preseason variety. Had, Trey Lance supposedly looked like garbage in his attempt to wrest the starting quarterback job in San Francisco. Boy, that goes down. That's going to be there with the, worst draft picks ever, possibly, right? Trey Lance, if he doesn't amount to anything. I guess, and Zach Wilson continues to distinguish himself. I don't know. Is there going to be a quarterback controversy in New York if this kid keeps lighting up in preseason? You bench Rodgers? Wouldn't that be something? Now, that would take balls on the part of a coach to declare the job wide open while you signed Aaron Rodgers amidst all of this fanfare, and then Zach Wilson lights it up in the preseason and you give him the job to start on opening day. Would you applaud that move as a coach, or would you? No, he wouldn't even be able to get to the stadium that day. They'd have him fired so fast. But nonetheless, a bunch of starting quarterbacks were in action. I guess the guy that's he's not hasn't been named the starter, Baker Mayfield, yet with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but Kyle Trask supposedly looks like garbage. The former Gator great.
Horrendous.
Kyle Trask. What do you think?
Horrible. Trask has been a disaster.
Disaster. All right. So, not too much there. The Jets won 27-0. Rodgers didn't sniff the field. Zach Wilson, again, as we said, lighting it up. And so we can't necessarily blame Rodgers still for that loss in the Hall of Fame game to the Cleveland Browns. We were thinking maybe they don't win a preseason game and all kinds of controversy arises, but not the case. They whitewashed. Who'd they play? Carolina? The New York Jets? Might have been. I'm not sure. But I've found this, that the preseason has never been, we've been saying this, but it's never been rendered more meaningless, has it? Preseason football. In fact, the Saints had a bunch of their guys in there. Kamara was playing, fresh out of court. They had Thomas playing also, wide receiver that has been in and out of the lineup with injuries over the last couple of years, who they desperately need. Very surprising to see the differing philosophies of various coaches. Mike McDaniel, though, you have to figure, too clever to play Tua at any time during the preseason?
Oh, no, he'll play this next. He's
going to take a couple of snaps next week.
Oh, no, he'll play the next game. I just don't know if he'll play the third game. What's funny about the Dolphins is I didn't see what you saw. The skill position seems as deep as it's ever been. It sucks because he can't ever get hurt, and he's a guy we know will get hurt. They're a quarterback situation.
There you go.
Maybe
like I said, the season's up in smoke. It's doomed already.
It's just scary. White moved the offense, but was abysmal in the red zone. Like 3 different times, McDaniel kept giving him chances instead of kicking field goals, and he was so late. Like, guys were running wide open. It's like when you're looking here, it's like the Gators offense. Guys were running wide open, yelling here. And he wouldn't throw it. He would wait so long that the defender finally got there, and then he would always throw it behind them. It was like, dude, what are you doing? And then Thompson came and was like, here, hold my beer. Dude had 3 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. They were driving at the end just to maybe make it interesting. Takes 2 blitzers are coming off the left. Everyone in the whole stadium can see it, except for Thompson. Doesn't move the protection. Both guys get to him, end the drive. Then that leads to the punt return touchdown. Then the next drive is the interception touchdown. And then the next drive is a fumble. It's like, dude, who the fuck thought this guy should be an NFL starter? This guy sucks. Like, oh my God.
There you go. No need to watch the rest of the season.
Like, I was longing for Zach Wilson. I'm like, fuck. Are they sure Zach Wilson sucked? Because Jesus, these people are
no. He looks great all of a sudden because he doesn't have to worry about anything. Possibly, I don't know. He was banging all those cougars, man. I mean, his mother is an attractive woman, and wasn't Zach Wilson known to be banging all of her friends? He's like the Pete Davidson of the National Football League, except he is a good-looking kid. Whereas with Pete Davidson, you're wondering what the heck. He must have one giant hot dog there. I mean, is that all? I mean, that's a terrible characterization of women.
It's probably
to
true.
Suggest for a second that the only reason that any woman would be attracted to this guy is because he's got a giant schlong. Only John Holmes.
I mean,
all right. I mean, that wasn't even a big story. That was kind of a minor story. The running back they drafted looked pretty good. What is it sounds like the racehorse Archon. What's his name?
Shane, Devon Shane. Yeah, the Cam Smith guy before he got hurt. He looked good. Like,
he looked good. Yeah.
Their talent was actually not bad. They looked pretty good.
They do have a bunch of wide receivers and even some depth at running back. I mean, what they have? They had a couple of guys that you thought might be prominent last year until they revamped that whole running personnel with Mostert and Wilson after they acquired Wilson. Then you had a couple of guys kind of drop off a little bit on the depth chart. But even those guys look good, right?
Askin, Ahmed. They had this guy Brooks who came in late, this big, strong back. And I was like,
so how come they sucked if they had all of this?
Don't have a
because of the quarterback play.
No quarterback outside of Tua. Like, if Tua stays healthy, they have a really good shot to be really good. If Tua misses a down,
I don't know. I watched Mike White last year. He made those starts for the Jets after Wilson got hurt, and I thought he was okay. I really did. I thought, all right, this guy's not terrible. But then he blew up. I guess you come back to the pack. That's unfortunate. It's the cheap claimer that bumps up in class, wins a race, and then reverts back to being what it was, which was a cheap claimer. Next time you see him, he's starting at Beulah Park in the second race. The big news, though, was the Yankees in town, Lubie. And how about this? We're still
we're in
the race.
Did you watch yesterday? I was just.
Here's what happened. Let me go ahead. What were you going to say?
No. I was just monitoring those games. I figured they'd get swept after fucking Friday.
Friday didn't look good. It was kind of a dull, effort by the Marlins, and they lost. They come back behind. Actually, I have to give one of these Barry America handicappers credit from Action Sports because he said to take a shot with Sandy Alcantara, and pointed out that we were talking about this all season long. That, and every time Alcantara would have he would give up 6 runs in the first inning and then pitch 5 scoreless. And everybody would be saying, even our man Minerini there on TV would be implying, okay, that's an indication that he's back. And then he'd go out the next time, give up 5 runs in the first inning again. And he thought, well, I mean, if he's going to do that, it doesn't matter how effective he is after. Well, he really did a good job of saving the bullpen. Okay, great. Meantime, you lost a fucking game in the first inning. We were tired of that. But he said and pointed out statistically that Alcantara over his last 7 or 8 starts is actually, dare I say it, Lubie, or was getting back to the pitcher that he was. He wasn't quite Cy Young, but, he was there. He might have not have been Loretta Young, or Jimmy Young, or, anybody else named Young. Because who was the guy? Oh, shoot, I'm blanking on that actor. That, his last name was Young. Very famous guy. And I'm blanking on the first name. Anyway, he was great. He goes the distance. And he gives up 1 run. The Marlins win at 3-1, so they're back in the series. So yesterday I turned on the TV. I'm flipping channels. I got back from a couple of things that we were doing, flipping channels. And I thought, oh, yeah, the Marlins, they're probably still playing. And sure enough, by the way, too, that game on Saturday, 2 hours and 3 minutes or something.
Nice.
2 hours and 3 minutes, less than a basketball game.
Yeah. Nice.
Now you're thinking, geez, all that schlepping to get here and back. All I got was 2 hours of entertainment. Hey, fuck you, Marlins. But yesterday was wild. So I turn it on. It's the 7th inning, and the Yankees are up 7-2, and it was too painful for me to watch the rest of it, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I flipped over to, you find this surprising, coverage from Saratoga, where I happen to watch back-to-back races where my birthday numbers come in, and I don't have 2 cents on it.
Of course.
Nothing. 0. Right, big fat payoffs too, and one of which I sort of anticipated. The other one I probably would have taken a little shot at had I cashed on the previous rate. The usual stuff, right? Your mind, if you're a sick degenerate, plays games with you all day, all night long. It's horrible, isn't it? You need therapy, but you can't find anybody that can solve the problem because your therapist is sending in bets while you're talking to him. Isn't that funny, right? You're in that marriage counseling, and the guy goes, "So Shirley, how did you feel about that when Mike said that you're an asshole?" And she says, pa 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 pa. And meanwhile, the guy's sending in, okay, give me the Hawks -2 against the Knicks.
The degenerate therapist.
They're always looking at something other than you, right? How come they have that? Where do they get that ugly therapist furniture from?
It is always rough.
I mean, have they not seen the ads for like rooms to go? I mean, where's Jesse Palmer when you need him? Cindy Crawford is like laying out on these couches. Who's the other one? Julianne Hough. She's dancing. Do people really dance on their furniture because they're so happy that they got this furniture?
That would be stupid.
Have you ever seen anybody do that?
No, my wife would spit on me.
It's like this bloated chick that's doing the Jardiance ads, and she's dancing away. And it's like, you know what you really need to do? Forget this medication. Lose 100 pounds. That would help. I'm getting very cruel and cynical in my old age, but so I'm cynical about the Marlins. I didn't think it was a disaster if they lost 2 out of 3. I mean, I was glad they salvaged that game on Saturday. Kind of made it all right. So here's a bonus, but you're very much in the thick of a crazy wild card chase in the National League, Lubie.
Yep.
And now they have that position, the third position, a half game better than the Cubs, who they eclipsed over the weekend by beating the Yankees on Sunday, and a game ahead of Cincinnati. So you have the Giants. The Phillies are 3 up on the wild card,
Yeah,
and in the first spot. The Giants are only 1 up on the Marlins in the wild card, but 2 games in the loss column.
Okay.
The Marlins are 2 behind in the loss column, and then the Marlins are there, and now a half game ahead of the Cubs and a game ahead of the Cincinnati Reds, who were battling over the weekend as well. This was huge. I turn away from the game thinking, I don't want to watch this ugliness, Lubie. I just don't want to see the season fade away. I was, this situation, the A's also, the A's bounced back. The Marlins were only down 4 going to the 9th inning because they got a run in the 8th inning. So when I tuned in, they were down 7-2. They were going to the top of the 8th, and I thought I'd seen enough. The last thing I wanted to do was see these puking Yankee fans. I mean, here was a case where the fans, 30,000 plus on a Sunday, most of them left depressed.
Yeah.
When the home team won. Think about that. It was staggering.
Most left depressed when the home team won.
Like a phenomenal comeback, one of the greatest in baseball history. The A's were playing the Nationals. They were up 5 going in the 9th inning yesterday. This was like the first time since like 2010. There's always a first time since whenever that 2 teams trailing by 4 or more going to the 9th inning both won on the same day. Okay. Does that make sense to you? 2 teams that were trailing by 4 or more going to the 9th inning. They both won on the same day. The A's coughed up a 5-run lead. Now, as bad as the A's have been, and it could be that they rarely have a 5-run lead going to the 9th inning. But they haven't been a really bad team until what? Till this year?
Yeah.
The A's, I mean, they were sort of competitive in a bizarre. I mean, they even made the postseason, didn't they? Going back a couple of years ago,
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, it was Billy Bean, it was Moneyball, and they were doing a great job. Much like they were right in there, not quite what the Rays were doing with no money and no fans, but the A's were right there. And you're looking at this organization and saying to yourself, how is it possible that with everything going against them, they're able to be competitive? And dare I say it, Lubie? And the Marlins were not. We've been wondering this for years. So the A's had won like 17 or 1,800 straight games when they were leading by 5 going to the 9th inning.
Oh, Jesus.
Like dating back to like 08 when Charlie Finley was just a gleam in his father's eye.
The Philadelphia A's.
Yeah. So I mean, they probably were in Kansas City the last time they coughed up a lead.
Oh, my God.
5 runs going to the 9th inning. So they lose to the Nationals, who rally to come back and win the game. And on the same day, the Marlins come back from 4 runs down against the Yankees. Never happens. And yet, here you've seen something, I mean, as rare as, not quite a no-hitter maybe, but close. right? And the fans were depressed. Over 100,000 though drawn for the 3 games. So I think you have to look at it from the standpoint of I don't care how that happened. Yes, it was the Yankees, for a rare appearance here in town. How often do they get here? Like every 6 years or something? I don't know.
I don't know if it's 6, but every few years.
Well, now I guess there might be more of a frequency to it.
Yeah,
People were bitching about it. Oh, what's up with baseball purists? Don't you want to see your team play every team?
yes.
I mean, the whole business about, well, geez, no, you shouldn't have any interleague play. That's over.
Yeah, it was stupid.
And it probably, I mean, in the modern era of sports entertainment, how can you have those restrictions on things? Why would you want to have, a situation in place where, people in certain parts of the country never saw some of the big stars of the game? That doesn't make any sense. Would you agree, Lubie? I mean, I always see like guys like Mushnick screaming, can you believe this? They bastardized the game. It's not the same anymore. I don't care if the All-Star game has been compromised a little bit in terms of, what the competition means. If in general, I mean, look what happened here over the weekend. Late in the season, you stimulated an audience to the point of having 30,000 a night for 3 days in a row at Lone Shark Park. You never see that. That's the first time that's happened since like 2012 when the stadium opened, where they had 3 consecutive crowds of 30 in a row. That's surprising to me, right? Because you'd figure one of those Yankees or Red Sox series later on would have had that kind of drawing power. No, that's how weak the Marlins gate has been. That even with the Yankees or the Red Sox in town, they couldn't draw 30,000 fans 3 games in a row. They did it this time, just barely. I guess they covered that number pretty easily, 100,000, and they were all. I mean, in the outfield, they had that whole Supreme Court. I thought I saw Justice Thomas there on a freebie.
Oh, they did the judge. Judge. Oh, okay.
They did the judge thing, and he hits a home run in the series. But did he only have one? I think he only hit 1 home run in the series. Aaron Judge. I forget who it was that pointed this out to me. It might have been Andy. It might have been somebody else. I might have read it somewhere. I don't know where I'm plagiarizing this thought from, but I thought it was very clever. It's true too. Could have been a Polyman, big Yankee fan. That aside from Aaron Judge, the Yankee lineup, you're pitching to the Oakland A's. This year's version of the Oakland A's with the Yankees. They suck. I mean, they have no business being in the race. And how Brian Cashman is safe and is going to keep his job. Aaron Boone, you could find what? I mean, you could find reasons to nitpick and criticize any manager. But Aaron Boone, I don't know. He's pitching the guys that already have a couple of big hits in the game and have been hammering the ball during the series. In this case, this Jake Berger has just been like hitting sizzling line drives now. Well, wasn't it just a week ago, Lubie? We were saying, well, it's a shame. Well, were we not on last Monday's show?
Yes.
Implying that it was a shame that, Kim Ng's moves didn't work out. And now they all look brilliant. They do. I mean, they all look brilliant all of a sudden.
Yeah, the reliever dude yesterday, well, not the Bozabon, but the last guy, the
Lopez, right?
Was the guy, the first reliever trade, or was it the second one? The one after Robertson. Yeah. He pitched really well. The relievers have pitched better. Yuri Perez sucks now. That's one of their decisions that's going to turn out to be one of the fucking stupidest decisions. They literally saved him for like 3 weeks. Like, why? I don't know. I still will. Mish doesn't have time for us, but I'd love to talk to Mish because he actually is clued in on the Marlins and he actually backed that dumbass decision of, well, he's never pitched a lot of innings, so let him get rest and then they can bring him back. Okay, he has no idea what the fuck he's doing anymore. That's 2 straight starts where Yuri Perez looks like utter ass.
He's giving up a lot of home runs. Yeah.
It's just fucking
All right, Brett Tessler going to join us here. We'll get into some NFL. But anyway, big win for the Marlins yesterday. Yes, they start a series tonight against the Houston Astros. And they have to go against the no-hit guy, Framber Valdez, tonight. So no tall assignment. They go right out of the frying pan and into the fire, Lubie. Yes. But all of these moves look like they've been fantastic. Louis Arias continues. I mean, he's not going to hit 400, but what? If he hits 350 for the year, he's at 367 right now. It's still amazing for a Marlin player to have a 350 average over the course of the season. You look at that though. I guess Freddie Freeman isn't that far behind him. I mean, he's far behind. If you're just looking at he's hitting 330, so he's never going to catch him. but he's doing it with like a ton of home runs.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's pretty impressive also. But Louis Arise has been great. Big RBI. I guess it was a triple that was ruled, where he line one inside of first base down into the corner, and that brought home 2 runs to tie the game. He eventually scores on a Jake Berger base hit. Berger drills one into the corner as well. And the Marlins win that ball game to move into the 3rd spot. So still very much in a race. I was watching the Skip Schumacher post-game press conference. This guy speaks baseball, man. He really does. The skipper. I think, very interesting. I mean, you know how we always are amazed at these basketball guys when they remember every detail of everything that happened, including like what the spin rotation was on the ball. The same thing with Schumacher, man. He's really into it. In a game that you think is a little less complicated in terms of integrating all of the various parts. All right, we're going to talk some football here in a moment. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you on the Defo Show. Want to peel yourself off the mat. Monday, Brett Tessler, the agent to the Stars, is going to join us. We'll see if he saw anything of any great significance in those opening preseason games. People always want to draw conclusions. There have to be winners and losers, Lubie, and we'll try to identify those for you in just a moment. Now that
the time.
It's 7:38. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the Stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
All right, we could feel it a little bit as we had the first full slate of preseason games completed over the weekend. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you here on the Defo Show, and always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program anytime, especially as it's pigskin season. We all have the fever. We welcome to the show the agent to the Stars, the one and only Brett Tessler. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Good to be with you guys.
Good to be with you. I mean, how busy were you? Were you gargling with Visine? Did you have to watch a lot of this action? How intense is it for you? When I was thinking, geez, you have to have players all over the league that you have to follow. So what was week one like for you, Brett Tessler?
Yeah, believe it or not, it's extremely intense because, all these games are like on one day, so it's like, this time of the year. It's not spread out over 4 days in the week like it is during the regular season. And so, you have to watch a lot of football here in a short amount of time. And after the games are over, you call your clients and you talk about the games and you ask them how they think they did. You let them know whether you agree or disagree with their assessment if you're a good agent and if there's things that need to be corrected. you figure out what those things are and discuss it with them and see if it's things that they're willing and able to do. Because the bottom line is this: not everybody is cut out to play in this league. Anybody who gets this far has a lot to be proud of, but even the guys that are at this point, only a certain percentage of them are still going to be standing come September. So if you got a client that you feel has the talent, has the ability, has the tools, but for one reason or another hasn't quite done what they need to do, then those are the conversations you need to have. But, it was great to get back in the swing of watching film and watching these games. I mean, when I watch, I evaluate very, very closely. I probably rewind every play that one of my guys are involved in probably 10 or 12 times, just look at every little thing I can see. And, then we talk about it right after the game. And, hopefully it's a situation where my clients are happy with what they did. And, you try to be encouraging, but, if it's a case of a guy who, maybe just isn't good enough and, may not be able to make it in this league, you just want them to enjoy it. And on the other hand, if it's a guy that, has a lot of talent, it's your job as an agent to push them to where they understand what they need to do and they go ahead and do it.
All right. Well, you represent guys that are established. I know they're going to be either starters or very significant players on rosters and have the roster made. Do you have many people this season or anybody who's in a situation where it is uncertain whether or not they're going to stick with the team that they're with right now? And then, the second part of that is to what extent do you have to watch and say, geez, can you believe this? The Saints, they don't have anybody that can play interior offensive line. I mean, how much time is spent trying to assess where situations might occur where, one of your guys might be a better fit than the current roster he's on.
And so it's funny you mentioned that because it's a conversation I just had with one of my clients the other day about, don't just get caught up in who you're competing against on your team. So, For example, I represent a tight end who's in a really great situation, meaning, of course, they have numbers at the position, but their quality is limited. And so in that situation, it may appear that this guy is going to have an easy time making the roster, even if he doesn't really perform at his highest level, just because it's still going to be better than some of the other guys around him. But I explained to him, don't get too caught up in that because you're competing not just with those three other guys, you're competing with probably about, 32 teams, probably about 100 other tight ends that are going to be getting cut here in a few weeks.
Wow.
So what will happen is I've had guys where it looked like we had it made, and then boom, they claim two other guys on waivers because, for whatever reason, one team's fourth tight end might be better than another team's second.
Yeah.
And so, when those guys get put out there, you'll see them get claimed on waivers, and then the tables get turned on you. So you got to be careful not to let that happen because it's easy to be complacent when you're looking at your team's roster and the guys that you're competing against. And I've got this guy beat. I've got this guy beat. Okay, I've made it. Well, not necessarily. So you can never take your foot off the gas as a young player. And, that's, again, my job to kind of continue to push them in a positive way.
Like so often when you're watching these games, you'll hear announcers talk about, well, it's not just this game. It's not just who's here. It's the rest of the league. You're putting the rest of the league not only on notice, but you want to put stuff on film so that the rest of the league can see who you are because it's an audition for the league. And I always thought that was a load of garbage. So you're saying that's not. You're saying that really is a thing where every minute you get in preseason, as much as we mock it, you need to take full advantage of it because any film you have is film that could save your ass.
100%, Lubie. And so honestly, on the flip side of and on the flip side of what I just said about how you may not have it made where you're at because, the team could bring in someone else. The same is true on the other side where even if you feel like you have no chance to make it, let's just say that, the team they're going to carry, three guys at your position. And let's just say that you're clearly going to be the fourth guy. Again, your team's fourth guy may be better than another team's second guy. And, you may be the one that gets claimed on waivers. So that's why you can never take anything for granted, positively or negatively. You've got to just continue to stay focused on what you can control, which is going out there every day, learning, improving, growing, and producing ultimately once these preseason games begin. Because yes, every 31 other team of the 31 of the other teams is watching the film of your game and every other game this preseason. And so that's why you can't just go out there and look good or decent or, you know, better than average, because these scouts have an awful lot of film to watch. You've got to stand out. You've got to really distinguish yourself and do things on film that if anybody takes a glance, they're going to be like, whoa, wait a second, what was that? And then they'll go back and watch it again. They'll be like, you know what, let's check out some more of this kid's film. So that's how it can start. And so, you know, that's why, again, no matter how good or bad you think your situation is as a young player in this league, things may not necessarily be the way they appear as it relates to your chances of making it or not making it.
How catastrophic can one play be? I'm watching some guys back on a punt return. He fumbles the ball, gets punched out of there right away. And the announcers, I forget who it was and what game it was even, but the announcers are like, oh, geez, you know, he's a wide receiver. He's going to have to make it on special teams. Have you found it that one play, you know, would be that significant, or are coaches and people that do the scouting, you know, willing to override that and say, you know, and judge people on the overall talent? Because it would seem, I mean, it's catastrophic for some of these guys, right? To make one mistake in a preseason game, and that could be the difference between being in the NFL and looking for a place in Canada somewhere.
Yeah, well, it depends on how many other good things you've done to counterbalance that.
Yeah.
And so, if the play you're describing happens to be the guy's only play of the game,
yeah,
then, that's no bueno. And so, in those situations, you know, you just try to tell your client to keep his chin up, and, you know, hey, let's just have a great week of practice. Let's move past it. But you know, these guys aren't stupid, Beef. You know, they may be young. It may be their first go around in this league, but, you know, they don't need me to tell them that that's bad as opposed to good, you know, to pull away a kick or, you know, whatever the case may be. So, you know, you don't want these guys coming into these games uptight. You don't want them so anxious that, you know, they might make a mistake on a routine play that they've made a million times. You just tell them, and this is what I always tell my clients coming into these games, hey, you know, I don't need you to be something you're not. I don't need you to do something superhuman or something, you know, extra. Just be yourself, nothing more, nothing less. If it's a guy, again, that I know has talent, that's been a productive player, I tell him, hey, it's football. Same sport you dominated in college, same sport you dominated in high school. Well, now this is the next step. Let's dominate here. And so, you know, hopefully that's the way it goes. And if it's a situation where the guy does make a mistake or whatever, all you can really do is sort of, if it's just, you know, concentration error or something like a fumble, something like that, you need to let them know that, hey, you know, it happened. There's no point in dwelling on it. Let's move past it. But on the other hand, you're better than that. And let's just, you know, let that be a fluke, and let's, you know, make up for it by having a great week of practice and a great next preseason game. And then hopefully that's what they go on to do.
So again, off the vein of, and bringing it back to the local team, I know you had a lot to watch. I don't know how much of the Dolphins you got to watch. What's interesting is, to me, I was encouraged by a lot. Before I even started watching, I got a text from Defo and suck. So I was like, oh, how bad are they down? And they weren't down. They couldn't score in the goddamn red zone. So I was like, okay, whatever. I don't really care about the score. The line wasn't horrendous. The defense looked pretty good. The skill position talent looks as deep as it's been maybe in my life. So I was like, okay, cool. They're not even playing on their starters, and they have that stuff down. But the quarterback play was as bad of it. And look, and again, this is an organization that we've seen John Beck and Cleo, the list goes on and on, of guys who started that shouldn't have been preseason quarterbacks. So the expectations for quarterback play in the preseason for the Miami Dolphins is very low from my end. And I somehow was disappointed. What weight do you put in a game one from backups at quarterback when, again, they're supposed to be backups, but you know your starter gets hurt a lot at quarterback?
Well, specifically the game you're talking about, I was one of the ones that I was happy to not have to watch because I represent starting running back on the Dolphins, who I knew ahead of time was not going to be playing. So, and I represent a veteran defensive back on the Falcons, who I knew wasn't going to be playing. So, hey, those were two birds with one stone that I didn't have to watch. And as far as, the performance of Skylar Thompson or someone like that, if that's who you're referring to.
Even Mike White not being able to he had 3 possessions inside the 5 and had 2 horrible passes and an interception. So both guys.
The truth about Mike White, the truth about a guy like Mike White, that guy's the gamer. There's certain guys that just have the elite talent, the Aaron Rodgerses, those kind of guys. Those guys are going to look great, whether it's, Super Bowl, preseason game, training camp, practice, day in, day out. And then there's other guys that are just gamers, guys like Tim Tebow kind of was, guys like, Mike White, who's just a scrappy guy who, again, it's not always going to look pretty in practice. It's not always going to look ultra efficient, but, you put that guy in a game, and that's really when he's at his best, where, he can kind of use his intangibles to try to figure out a way to, scratch and claw and hopefully, help his team win a game. So I don't expect a guy like Mike White to go out there and look like the second coming of Tom Brady. I mean, that's not what he's ever been. He's a guy sort of like a Heineke was with Washington, just guys who just have a knack to come into games and just sort of deliver a little spark for their team. But at the end of the day, if you're a fan of the Dolphins, yes, if you want to go anywhere this season as it relates to the postseason or, even a Super Bowl, you're going to need Tua to be the guy who's back there. And, last year you had a guy like Bridgewater, who's definitely more of an experienced guy, a guy who, was a bona fide starter. Those are ideally the best kind of guys to have as backups, like you saw what Nick Foles did for the Eagles in that Super Bowl. If you're fortunate to have that kind of backup, then, it's a different deal. But a lot of the backups you see these teams have, take the Jets, for example. Sure, great. You got Aaron Rodgers, one of the all-time greats, but he goes down and then it's back to Zach Wilson. So, usually the fall off is a dramatic one when a starter goes down. So Dolphins are no exception there, but in the case of Skylar, I've liked him. I think he's a talented guy, and frankly, his preseason last year may be one of the all-time great preseasons any quarterback's ever had. And so, he's an interesting guy, but clearly, if you're a fan of the Dolphins, you need and want Tua to stay healthy for this team to be able to go as far as they can.
No chance they signed Don Strock. Lubie was screaming for the Stroker to come back. He wants that position solidified. He was not happy after the first preseason game. All right, speaking of quarterbacks, so one more thing, if you don't mind, Brett Tessler. All right, so obviously, people are paying attention to the 3 guys who were drafted in the top 4. They all played. I don't know, how much they did to distinguish themselves. I guess the opinion of Stroud wasn't overwhelmingly favorable. I guess Richardson did some good things. Bryce Young also played. Surprisingly to me, too, though, and I don't know if you caught any of that or there's any steam about those 3 guys, if any of them stood out, in the opinion of people inside the NFL. But I also was surprised to see some of the starters from other teams seeing playing time in the first game. What did you make of that? Or, what was that somewhat surprising?
Different teams, different philosophies. And so, it seems kind of pointless for me to have Patrick Mahomes out there. Guy's already won you 2 Super Bowls. He's obviously the future of your franchise. All of this season's fortunes are in his hands. And so, I don't really see a lot of purpose for him to be out there. And you saw him actually kind of take a hit right before they got him out of there. So, it's just, I guess, just different coaches have different philosophies on that. And in the case of a guy like Patrick Mahomes, he likes to play football. And there's a good chance that he was telling Andy Reid, hey, Andy, just one series. Let me just, just get a little timing down. Let's just, work on a couple things out there. But to me, it's a risk that has a very, very heavy price attached to it if, God forbid, the unthinkable happens. But, you talk about situations where young quarterbacks distinguish themselves. I saw some situations where young quarterbacks extinguish themselves, and it's
more common practice. Yes.
Yeah, if you watch like the 49ers game, Trey Lance got considerable work in there, and everybody obviously wants to see what the guy can do because the team gave up so much to move up to the top of the draft to get him just a couple of years ago. And he's a guy that everyone was excited about, and then he ended up having some injuries, and he was thought of initially as a guy that would need a little time to develop. So here in year 3, you're really expecting to see some major strides. And that wasn't the case there. And, that turns out to be the case in other instances. And again, that's what makes this business fun. The fact that, there is no sure thing. And there's guys that people think have no chance to fail, and they do. And there's guys who some people think have no chance to make it. And somehow they beat the odds and go on to have long and successful careers. So, that's why the draft is fun, and that's why it's always a fun time of the year to see who of these younger guys is going to pan out. And on the flip side, you also kind of find out who of these younger guys sort of finds their level, whatever that level may be.
Who was the guy, Jalen Carter, the guy that dropped in the draft from Georgia that everybody thought was going to be maybe the number 2 pick? And I think he ended up with the Eagles. Whatever. I'm watching him. I'm pretty sure he was playing for the Eagles and annihilating people. I mean, just bowling over him like Messi in the MLS. It was pretty incredible. All right, all good stuff, Brett Tessler. So your guys all held up pretty well, right? You're in good order. What with all of your clients around the league and ready for week number 2. Will we see any ratcheting up of quality of play? Do you think in this second round of games, as they only play 3 now, or is it going to be more of the same?
I think, more of the same. Certainly, the rookies may have less jitters coming into the second game than they do their first time ever stepping foot into an NFL stadium wearing an NFL helmet. They kind of get that part of it out of the way. But, as time goes on, naturally, timing and chemistry and things like that only tend to improve. So, I think you can expect to see, a slightly better quality of play. The only thing is, the guys you're going to be seeing it from are guys who, in most cases, aren't going to end up making the final rosters anyway. So, again, I don't think you're going to be seeing a ton of Aaron Rodgers in week 2. I don't think you're going to be seeing a ton of Justin Herbert. I don't think you're definitely not going to be seeing Joe Burrow. And so, and whether Pat Mahomes gets back in there or not, that remains to be seen. But just in general, things like offensive line where everything offensively sort of begins and clicks with, definitely an extra week of practice and a second game certainly helps that unit form more cohesion and probably play at a little higher level.
All right, so Lubie shouldn't burn his ticket on the Dolphins to make the playoffs, the preseason prop bet that he made just yet, even though he was bitterly disappointed in the quarterback play. Tess, always a pleasure, my friend. It's great having you on the show, and we can sense your enthusiasm. Get some rest on those eyeballs and get ready for another round of football coming up this week. We'll talk to you again next Monday on another Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Thanks for being with us.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Tessler.
All right, very good. That's it. I mean, Lubie, you didn't buy that? I mean, I always bought into that whole cliched thing about, you have to have a body of work on film. And so everything that you do, I mean, for these Scribinis, it's kind of interesting, the preseason. Think about it. Like your whole, career, possible future could be just sitting there based on a play or two. I always feel badly for the guy that, is maybe a bubble player and then he makes a bonehead play like that where he fumbles a football.
Yep.
And you're like, can you believe that? I mean, how close? There are so many people that are, on the bubble, and how long can you be out of football? What are the other options available to you? Play in Canada, XFL, USFL. Are those viable options to make your way back into the league? I mean, we've seen guys go to Canada and come back and have even Hall of Fame NFL careers and borderline stuff too, right?
It can be.
Warren Moon was in Canada, doing his thing there for a while, and Doug Flutie, of course, caught the attention of NFL teams after. Well, he was also in the USFL, but yeah, it's weird. I always saw that when you're around the training camps during the season, not the training camp, but whatever their headquarters, practice facility. And you'll see some guy come in and he's like carrying a duffel bag, and he comes in there and shakes hands with a couple of people in the office, and then the next thing you know, you're seeing him in shorts and he's running out there in the field for like a quick audition, and then comes back out, and the guy wishes him good luck and hands him, the guy picks up his bag and goes on to the next city. And these would be like veteran players that have been around the league, or maybe even have 5 to 10 years invested in the National Football League, and you're thinking, wow, it's a real vagabond existence. Always a lot of guys knocking on the door trying to get in there and get that job. So, but I don't know that I'd be riveted to, if I'm representing a guy, sure. But can you imagine rewatching plays like 10, 11 times from the preseason games, Lubie? Having to dissect film like you were as a brooder, and sit there and go, you see that? Those shots came from over there. I don't know. I didn't really have too strong of a reaction to the Dolphins game because you didn't see anything that looked like the team. You're right, though. They do have some skill position players that, if those were your starters, you wouldn't necessarily be upset. I mean, it wouldn't be like you were thinking this is going to be some dominant franchise, but they're not half bad, right? Gaskin and all of these guys, some of those wide receivers, not too bad. Yeah.
It's the preseason, so I really take it all with a grain of salt. It's just Mike White's the guy that did start some games. Mike White's the guy that people in New York liked a lot. So I was like, okay, let's see what this guy
he looked very promising. I mean, following him in the post when he made those starts, and everybody was down on Hack Wilson.
Loved him.
So they loved him, man. They thought he was the second coming of Joe Willie, and then he came back and unfortunately reverted back to the pack. And it shows you the reasons that he wasn't starting in the first place, and why, if you had him on the roster, you would have to, did they move up to get Zach Wilson, or were they sitting there at number 2, the New York Jets? I want to say they traded up to get it.
I feel like they moved up. I feel like they moved up to get fucking Zach Wilson.
So a disaster so far.
I mean, I hope he's better, and that's good. Look, and again, if Mike White had lit it up like Skylar Thompson did last year, I wasn't like, oh, let's make Skylar Thompson the MVP. That's what I take preseason with a grain of salt. But when they look bad in the preseason, that's what scares me. Like, you're playing backups as a guy that's supposed to be able to start at times if Tua's hurt, and you're just missing wide open receiver. And he had time. The line wasn't horrendous. The line wasn't abysmal. They were able to run a little bit. Receivers were getting open.
Yeah, they were moving the ball at the times I was watching. I didn't watch the whole game.
He was just missing guys, and it was like, dude, what do you – he was pump faking. I'm like, he's wide open. Why are you pump faking? And then by the time he would throw it, he would always throw it behind him, and it was like, you just missed 3 touchdowns.
What if he lights it up in the next game? Will you?
It made me feel better, because that's my thing is, I'm not writing him off. It was one preseason game, and I get it, but it was just like, I don't understand how he's missing.
You would think we had better backups than the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, at least that's good.
I say we, and being the Miami Dolphins, but you would think that would have been the case. And they had been practicing with each other. I mean, the thing about the games that you really wonder how much meaning can you attach to it when the two teams have been working out against each other, and then what? I mean, does the pace change that much from what they were doing in practice? I would think so when you're playing a live game. And as Tess pointed out, there are many people that are out there that. Maybe you're the third string guard on the Dolphins, but you might be able to be inserted in a starting lineup. Some team has an injury in an interior line position, and that would be something that you wouldn't necessarily zero in on, if you were just a casual fan and worry about, second and third teamers on the offensive line. All right, so we're coming back with more in a moment. I don't know. I mean, what is the point of making definitive conclusions about anything after watching what most people would consider to be a pigskin dreck?
Look, and that's the thing is all we do is make fun of how it doesn't matter. For me to then write.
So how can you then attach meaning to it? Exactly.
It just
hello. Wow. That's like an argument with the wife, right? That you're going to lose no matter what. And then you finally agree with her, and then she says, "Yeah, well, you're just doing it, to make me, think that I'm going to get satisfaction here." And you're like, "No, I'm agreeing with you. I give in. I quit." You never win, right, Lubie? You just never win.
Oh, never.
All right, bunch of other stuff happening around the world of sport, and we'll get into a lot of it. The Marlins' victory yesterday was certainly a thriller in Manila type of situation. Kind of a good feeling. They were high-fiving Bruce Sherman on the way out. Did you see that? I don't even know how they recognized him. Well, we didn't. That's the owner of the team. He was there in the box. Seemed to be a very decent guy, and here we were. I mean, shows you how fickle the world and cyclical the world of sports can be, huh? Where just a week ago we were saying, I'm glad we didn't, sort of piss on the whole thing, right? Where he was saying, oh, well, they make all these moves and none of them worked out. Because it didn't look like any of them were working out. And then the team was losing, right? They went on an 8-game losing streak.
Yes.
Some ridiculous, I don't know, it was 8 out of 9. And it looked like they were finished. Yeah. Finished. El Finito, man. Stick a fork in them, Barbecue City.
Like 5 in a row.
Yeah. And now they're right back there, very feisty. And what an embarrassment for the Yankees, huh? In front of their home fans here at Marlins Lone Depot Stadium. Lone Depot Park.
I mean, I just don't. You're saying Cashman's safe. I don't even know what to do with that, but I don't.
I don't know. I saw that in the Post actually. That Boone still suspect, but Hal Steinbrenner believes in Cashman. I think Lisa Meanwell has pictures of Steinbrenner too. I really do. I mean, that soccer mom that was chasing Cashman around.
Both of them should be a package deal. I mean, come on. Like even the Cole move where they opened the piggy bank for him, he has not been the stellar dude he was.
Oh, he's been okay. Yeah, no, he's been good.
He hasn't been fucking a shutdown, scary. At least you can count on him every 5th day guy.
I would disagree with that. I think Cole has been very, very good if you look at his stats. And he's had some monster efforts, and he's the only guy that's had any consistency in their rotation. That Rodon deal turned out to be a disaster. But the Yankees are always in a situation, because they're willing to spend money. And I don't know, is it more prohibitive now to carry some kind of exorbitant luxury tax in Major League Baseball, Lubie? Has that changed to the point where even the Yankees might have to, look at what they're doing from a budget standpoint and show constraint?
Well, it's just hard to do it if you're losing. Even the rich ass teams aren't happy about it. That's why the Red Sox, when they had all that talent, but then they had that one bad year after they had won the World Series shockingly, they got rid of everyone because they're like, oh, if we're going to be bad, what's the point of spending money to be bad? They'll spend money to be good. We're not going to spend hundreds of millions to be bad. That's the thing.
The Yankees don't scare you at all, do they? And compare that to what you saw. The Braves Mets series. The Mets won one last night, right? So and you're thinking, if you're a Met fan, what do you attach your hopes to now? That you're going to be good 2 years from now? Buck Showalter, always determined to be a baseball man, right? Well, Buck's the guy that can straighten things out. No. Is handed one of the most. Just an incredible roster when you're looking at it on paper. Suffers, some unfortunate setbacks like the Diaz thing before the season, but nonetheless could do nothing with this team. Nothing. 0.0, my friends. They suck. So they get pounded by the Braves. They lost 21-3 in exhibition football on Saturday in the first game of a doubleheader. Came back and got pounded again in the second game. They won last night. I believe it was 8-7 was the final, but we're close to spitting the bit in that ball game as well. And then, you were waiting for him to announce like Rod Kniehl coming up to pinch hit. It's crazy. Or, Pumpsy Green now batting for the Mets. They really did. As Andy mentioned to me, they look like the 62 Mets. At this point, I'm not sure that they could beat the 62 Mets. And that's insane, isn't it? How horrible could you look against the Braves? So I saw, I got a kick out of this. That the Yankees, this was in the New York Post today. Let me see here what the headline was. Sometimes, you look at a headline and you're thinking, well, that's informative. Here you go. Yankees amazins, meaning the Mets, should be taking notes on the Braves. Whoa, there you go. This was Joel Sherman, a very respected baseball writer.
Why do they just think it's easy what the Braves and the fucking Astros did? They all do. Well, we just do what the Braves did. Really? Thank you. Ask the Marlins.
I mean, you need a little bit more, right? Than just to say, okay, yeah, let's do this like that. Many teams have stripped themselves down and never come back from the grave.
Look at Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Teams are perennial. And look, the Marlins could fall into that category too. They keep stripping themselves down and coming back with nothing. But this is kind of exciting, Lubie. I have to say, I'm into it now, and that was a turning point, I think, for me in the season.
I hope.
If you were ready to throw in the towel, which I wasn't, I thought they did a decent job of coming off that horrible start to the second half of the year, and then they started to win here and there, and come up with a couple of improbable victories.
Yep.
But yesterday's game, I mean, if that wasn't a turning point for this team, I don't know what will be, except for the fact that, unfortunately, coming in tonight, as people have been alluding to all season, a very tall assignment in the Houston Astros, who are battling, and somehow, no matter what happens with them, they lose players too, and they manage to hang in there.
Yep.
And make a very good account of themselves year in and year out. After 3 years in a row of losing 100?
Yes, but that was a long time ago now.
They were horrendous, yeah. All right, we're coming back with more here on the Defo Show. We'll be with you till 9 o'clock. Later on today, 12 o'clock, Mike Mayo and the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show. And that should be a lot of fun later on this week. Another couple of festive places we're going to be venturing out to. So looking forward to that. Are we? No, that's not Casa Calabria this week, is it?
I think Casa Calabria is next week.
Because I'm going to have to make sure I don't eat for like 2 days before I go there.
Casa Calabria is next week, I think.
Next week?
To get to Gilbert's.
Oh, Gilbert's. Okay. I like Gilbert's a lot, man. That's a great place. I revisited one of our old, places that they're not sponsors of the show anymore, but they shouldn't go unmentioned. And that was Costa's. Good pizza there, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Costa's.
Greek pizza. Yeah, Costa's.
Great.
And they have very good wings. We had some wings there. And,
Nice.
well, we got them to go. But, pizza's outstanding at Costa's. And Costa was there. He said to say hello to you and Mike Mayo. He asked me how Mayo was doing. I said he's gaining a little weight. Have him come in and have another pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great. We always had a lot of fun there. But outstanding. The pepperoni pizza they do is as good as any that you'll find in town. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Mike Mayo, 12 o'clock today with the Lunchbox Show. And we'll return in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:14.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Did you ever play that board hockey game where, it's kind of like foosball of hockey where you twirl the men around? Not knock hockey. Knock hockey was the thing with the
puck.
The little disc there, and you had the square in front, and everybody knew how to do the so-called squirter, where you would put the puck behind the block, and then you would just squeeze it with your thumb, and it went in every time, right? Sidewalling in, sidewalling in, sidewalling in.
Yep.
And you never miss. It's like watching these guys that are playing professional cornhole, which you're thinking, what do the parents think? While the kid is, I don't care if he cops $20,000 for winning a cornhole tournament. That's great. All right. If you get to that level of playing this, but what do you have to do to get to that level? ESPN 2, what happened to them, man? Are they desperate now? I don't get any of the other ESPN channels besides 1 and 2.
Okay.
So you'll turn on ESPN, the main ESPN channel, and like last night, for example.
It's a lot of softball.
They have like a baseball game on. All right, they've been filling a lot of time with Little League baseball.
I was gonna say Little League baseball and softball. I was like, I didn't even know they had Little
Oh
League.
yeah, the girls softball. That was
I was like, where did this come
watching
from?
9-year-old girls play softball on TV. Unless you're a parent, suspect. Huh? It's the kind of stuff the FBI finds your computer and says, "Listen, Mr. DeForest, how do you explain this?"
How do you explain?
I'm an. You go out Ralph Cramden on it. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a market for it, huh? But, as they're airing the same baseball game, they now have A-Rod and Michael Kay doing like a Peyton Manning thing on ESPN too, while the same game is on. I still don't get the fascination with A-Rod.
Oh, no.
He's about to sign like an exclusive deal with Fox to stay on their network and not be on ESPN anymore. And I think that's to the benefit of ESPN, don't you?
Yes, I was going to say, like, what is that?
Exactly. I mean, is ESPN going to be losing anything because A-Rod's not providing this insightful, sharp commentary? And can you tell me, this is always the litmus test. I mean, you could remember something that like Al DeRogatis said 100 years ago as a color analyst, right? When he was talking about, Maynard's going to go to the right there, and then after the fake to Boozer, you're going to see Joe Willie drop back, and he's going to throw it, and boom. Exactly as he described it, it happened. You would remember some things that Madden said, right? But do you ever remember anything that A-Rod has said about baseball, except like stupid stuff that was being pointed out early on when he was saying, well, you know what, you really, you only want to score in odd numbered innings. Like what? That was an extrapolation of, one of his ridiculous statements about how, you want to lead by odd numbers of runs or something. What was it that he was speculating
I
about?
never heard that one. I heard you
like
talk
the dumbest fucking thing that you ever heard in your life, except me trying to recapture it and recount it. But now, I don't know. Does he impress you at all as being a very insightful baseball commentator, Lubie, or would you rather have some guy that looked like he was looking for a free hot dog in a press box that really knew the game? What do you think? Just the glamour and infatuation with A-Rod as a commentator. I have never seen it. It's kind of like he's the Chick-fil-A of commentators for me. What do you think, Luke?
100%. He sucks. Yeah, I've never I got it with A-Rod. I didn't get it with a lot of the people. And I didn't realize there was an A-Rod war, a bidding.
Well, and you're thinking he's kind of obviously his character has been very much, besmirched by the fact that that he was looking at you like Pete Rose for all of those years. I would find Pete Rose much more interesting as a commentator. And he was on those Fox broadcasts for a while. So they had forgiven him, whatever. You think the baseball people said, hey, listen, you know what? There's not enough money in the world for us to have Pete Rose back in the game. What do you think? But was he any bigger of a cheat than A-Rod?
Well, people consider him a bigger cheat, but it's bogus. Like what he did actually, unless he
was betting against his own team while he was managing. That would, and it reeks of impropriety, which is something that the game can't have, because people have to believe that the game is on the level, which maybe, in Major League Baseball, I don't know, people always talk about it, the professor was talking about it. You can't buy a player in Major League Baseball, can you, to go and throw a game? I mean, there's no shoeless Joes.
No, the amount of money they're
around anymore. Yeah, I mean, they're all making zillions of dollars. Same thing in basketball. You might be able to take care of an official, but with the embracing of gambling by all of these pro sports entities, it does seem kind of ironic that a guy could be banned from life for the game for betting on games like 50 years ago when there wasn't all this, what? I mean, infusion of all kinds of gambling props into the game. Imagine Petey would have gone wild with today's circumstances, wouldn't he? He would have loved it in the dugout there. He would have had to have a separate guy, never mind a bench coach. He would have to have had a bookie right there to take an action. Makes the game more interesting, I would have to say. But, anyway, you would think that, that they would have somebody else there besides A-Rod. But you didn't notice, A-Rod's going to sign some big fat contract with Fox to exclusively work for them.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, what are they? It's so funny. These networks like fight over people that no one cares about.
Yeah.
ignore talent and like.
If A-Rod wasn't on the broadcast, would it discourage you from watching? Well, I mean, have you ever tuned in? Anytime I tune into a game and A-Rod, when he was doing Sunday Night Baseball, it's kind of a disappointment, right, to find him there. Or even on those pregame shows. Where now, I guess I haven't seen one with A-Rod and Jeter. Is that any good? Have you seen any of that on Fox?
Oh, I can't even imagine what the fuck that is. Are you kidding me? The two of them. Neither said anything ever in 30 years of being public figures.
I just, the whole idea that this guy, looked into cameras for years and years, much like Pete Rose did. I mean, I would believe that that's the main reason why Pete never, had a chance with any of the commissioners that followed Fay Vincent, which is what? How many have we had? Two, right? Selig and now Manfred Mann.
Mann, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, and Mann, you would think would be more inclined. Obviously, Selig had some kind of a hard-on about never having Pete back in the game. And I'm not campaigning for it. It just seems odd that
it's just dumb.
A guy could be banned for life on this thing while, and perceived as, persona non grata, while A-Rod is just welcomed back in. And, I mean, for years he did the same thing as Pete, just looked into a camera and said, "No, I never did any of that. What are you talking about? Katie, let go of my hand."
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, almost like a seance, saying some kind of, sit and shiver with A-Rod. Oh, I'm sorry to even have to ask you about these lame assertions that you're a cheating motherfucker. She never said that, did she, Lubie? I don't think so.
Look, like what Rose did was obviously against the rules, and it can ruin the actual fabric of the game. If the game's not on the level, especially from a gambling standpoint, that's a disaster. Totally understand that.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's in the whole 250 to some bookmaker, and the guy says, "Hey, listen, Pete, let's pay up here." I mean, how about you're 7 games up? Why don't you lose today?
So I get why he got, but what A-Rod did wasn't not cheating. Like it was bad. And then he did the thing that supposedly what makes it worse. He denied.
Exactly.
Hey,
like all of them. Yeah.
So like, why is he, because he dated or was engaged to J-Lo? We forget him. Like, I never understood why he got accepted so quickly. Because he's good looking and Pete Rose looks like the guy at the track. That
got great teeth. There's no question.
Like, yeah. I don't understand. Like, we really do let good-looking people off that easy, and ugly people get fucked. Like, I don't to me, they're both ugly. Like, A-Rod's very smarmy and wormy and a bullshitter. And
why would you believe his commentary if he was lying to you, just straight up, eyeball to eyeball? All right, he would look into every camera and tell you he never did any of this stuff.
Go fuck himself. And then on top of that, he doesn't say any, Pete Rose at least is funny when he does when he used to do the commentary. He was classic. He was like living and dying with every pitch as though he had money on the goddamn pitches.
And that's what you want. You want some psychotic nut degenerate right now. You would think that the FanDuel people would insist on that.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? You're going to pay A-Rod zillions of dollars to sit there and bore people into a coma. We want Pete out there living and dying with every pitch. Are you kidding me? A fastball? They're going to pitch to a rise.
He would fight with the guys on the set. It was great. Like, A-Rod was he's bland. He doesn't say, it's like he could say a whole thing. It's like
Jessica screaming, one more run.
And you're just
it's like a 9-4 ball game.
Yeah, but it's great. At least it adds something. Like, A-Rod, he'll say a whole thing, and you're like, what did he say? Anything? Like, I don't. Did he say anything? Was anything said in the last 5 minutes? It's like, okay.
He's been on these shows for years. I haven't heard him say anything yet that I would say, wow. I mean, that's good. I know more about the game now from listening to A-Rod. And everybody has an image of him trying to slap that ball out of the first baseman's glove. With that silly little slap. I don't want to say it looked like he was fighting like a girl, because I wouldn't want to get in there with like Serrano or, Cyborg and MMA.
Like
Can you imagine? You're in a wrestling match with that Chris Cyborg. Oh my God! You ever seen her?
Yes, she's the
Brazilian chick, man. Yeah,
she's like a robot.
I mean, and very when Ronda Rousey was like, all of the talk in mixed martial arts, there with that sleeper hold that she had. Well, no, it's the arm bar. She did the arm bar.
Yes.
It was Dr. Jerry Graham that came over from Japan many years ago. He innovated everything. Doesn't get the credit he deserves from guys like Mauro Ranallo and all these people they're calling MMA. How come they never pay homage to the great Dr. Jerry Graham of professional wrestling fame? Because he was the one that came up with that Japanese sleeper hold many, many years ago when he was wrestling for McMahon back in the day. All right, a couple of sidebar things here, Lubie. You want to get into some stuff that's off the beaten path a little bit? Very interesting. What was going on around the world of sport in general? Do we even pay any attention to the story about James Harden? How weird is this situation becoming? And what about this Daryl Morey?
I love it.
I mean, he was the GM in Houston, wasn't he? And then he got fired there.
Yes.
And went to because he said something about the affiliation with Chinese, manufacturers, if you will, and said, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we should be more sensitive to this thing." And the next thing you know, you're out of here. So he was gone. He picks up the job in Philadelphia, where you thought maybe he was doing a very good job. No, Daryl Morey, he kind of came back into favor as one of the good general managers in the league. I guess he never really fell out of sharing that opinion or having that opinion of him. And now he's got Harden, who opted back into his contract, insisting that he be traded. And he's saying he's not going to show up to any training camps or anything. I guess this is the strategy that he used before to exit a team.
They're not going to trade him. It's like, okay. Good luck.
Don't you have to get rid of this guy at this
I don't
stage?
know what the teams are doing. They're trying to turn back the clock to like a different day when.
But what is he going to be for this team? I mean, especially
nothing.
A disgruntled Harden, you would think would be like the last thing you would want on your roster.
I'm actually, and I can't. And you know how I feel about Harden. I think he's the biggest.
You don't like him. I mean, I'm not sure how much shelf life he has as he's not the top player that he was before, but capable. And when he plays that game where he is actually the so-called facilitator, also, he actually does it very well.
Yes, he had a good year, and the Sixers had moments, and they had a lead. Well, they were down, then they had a lead because of his play, and then Embiid was a total disaster versus the Celtics in the second round. I'm actually sort of rooting on Harden because I just think it's funny. Like, I understand guys like our friend Scott have a certain sentiment of a certain from a certain side of this world, and you're allowed to think 1940s, and good for you. That's not the world anymore, especially the world of athletics, and especially the world of the NBA. And I love these executives trying to wrangle back the power. With what's happening in Portland.
I mean, you're going to give this guy $35 million to, be an impediment.
Well, if he doesn't show up, he doesn't get paid, I guess. That's the one thing. Like, that's why supposedly Dame Lillard is going to show up. Well, to me, then what was this whole fucking thing with it? Like, if you ask for a trade, but then play for the organization, they're not going to trade you. They're just going to let you play. So the only reason you ask for a trade is because you're willing to not play. Harden is willing to go to all the way and not play. Okay, so then as an organization, why would you want to say, well, we're going to show you? What are you going to show them? It's just going to be a fucking circus. Like, you're down a player, and now you're going to have to deal with it. And I love what Harden did the other day. He literally got on microphones like, Daryl Morey fucking sucks. I hate Daryl Morey. He's a liar. I will never play for him. What a fucking liar. I'm like, good for him. Because these organizations swear that they're dealing with little boys. Like, these are not fucking boys. They're grown-ass men. And when you tell a grown man something and then you turn around and don't do it, you're fucking lying. And these organizations have done it for decades now. And these players are like, no, we had an agreement. You don't want to go in.
Supposedly, he was going to go to the Clippers or wanted to. And
they said, okay.
And there was mutual interest. But, they just didn't have any kind of assets that would, be a favorable reflection on the Philadelphia 76ers. I would think it's addition by subtraction at this point, and that you're far better off seeing if you can't find somebody that could, be almost what Harden was for them. I mean, the Harden that was scoring 45 points a game for the Rockets, that was a different guy. A couple of things here also. Our good friend Pat Fox, stupor is the term you're looking for.
What's the point of it? Because sometimes people like you have done in the past will throw away winners. Is that what it is? Like,
possibly, yes. I mean, where especially when there were disqualifications And some novice at Saratoga throws like a show ticket on the ground, thinking that their horse was out of it. Then all of a sudden it gets put up into the third position. And, some people might have discarded those tickets. Scratches. A lot of people throw tickets away where horses were scratched and they had a wheel and they don't even realize it. Toss them in the garbage. And also it could be, I don't know, maybe they made a bunch of scores, signing, tax tickets. And, so you have to have tickets to offset, if they ever audited you about offsetting your losses gambling to equate out to your winnings, which you can do. And it's usually accepted by the IRS. Like if you won 10,000 somewhere, you had to sign for it. You have to show that you lost 10,000 somewhere else, which where do you have proof of that? Right. Mm-hmm. So supposedly, I mean, I can't imagine the IRS going through this anymore with all the, think about all the stuff they have to do, but they would actually make some degenerate racing guy show them a stack of losing tickets. Here, you want to see losing tickets? Here. Not sure. Jim Sarney wanted us to mention something we were about to come up on here, which is fine. Jessica Pegula, man. Is she now a hot commodity for the... she's been knocking on the door and not quite able to get over the hump. This is the daughter of the Pegulas who own the Sabres and the Buffalo Bills, and they probably own the Anchor Bar or whatever that is, and every chicken wing that comes out of Buffalo. Because, for some reason, they're filthy rich and they want to live in Buffalo. Do they live in Buffalo? No, they have to live like in Florida.
She's here.
No? Yeah.
What do you mean? She's from Plantation. Like that was the whole, or Del Rey. Wasn't that the whole Harvey thing? Was that she's one of the ones that is down here?
Pegula, yeah, no, seems like a very nice, competitor in terms of always usually a factor. But when she's gotten the big moments, she hasn't been as effective. And so she won in Montreal, which is good on the hard courts. And to get there, to get to the semifinals, she had to beat Swiatek, Lubie Swiatek, Iga, who has been dynamite. So interesting as things are shaping up, as both the men and the women now are going to be heading pretty soon to the U.S. Open in New York City. And that's going to be a wild affair. Can you imagine seeing an Alcaraz final against like the Joker, like you saw at Wimbledon in New York? Oh my God! These English teetotalers are sitting there going, "Way to go, Carlos!"
Oh no, they're great. If you get a
New York, they're going to be bombarding the courts with like glass bottles, anything that they can get their hands on. Right? Garbage cans come tumbling down. It's going to be fantastic. A raucous crowd I'm expecting for that. So we'll see what happens. But Jessica Pegula, congratulations to her. She's like number 4 in the world. So
oh wow,
you're expecting her, to do well, but. She'll make it to like the quarterfinals and then lose to some schmenk. And you're thinking she did beat Coco Gauff on her way there. Coco's been playing some decent tennis. I'm not sure, what direction to go in. The women's U.S. Open titleist will be whom, Lubie? Whom? Any speculation on that? None?
I have no idea.
All right.
I couldn't even tell you.
All right. Dwayne Wade goes into the Hall of Fame. And that should be celebrated on this program. Dwayne Wade, always a great guy, very gracious, and a warm individual. I will not forget early on in Dwayne Wade's campaign with the Miami Heat, he was already established very early on as a guy that you had to watch. And I remember watching those early teams with Dwayne Wade, and I got turned on to going to Heat games that year. I had stopped going for a while. We started going, and it was under the radio host, Joyce Kaufman, was the one that was taking me down there. That was when I, got in that jackpot for, making a fool of myself in the crowd.
Eddie Jones.
We were cursing out Eddie Jones, which, why would I be doing that? Think about that. Why are you cursing at an athlete? I wasn't really cursing, but, we were making what would you be considered to be unflattering remarks. But I remember going to see those early, I think it was Wade's rookie season. I started going back to some games with Joyce Kaufman. She had season tickets, and we would go together and really get into it. And you thought, wow, this guy is really going to be something. And it turned out that he was. And a couple of years later, I remember being at an event there, and Wade's going around and making the rounds. It was that thing they do, like what they have the families out there in the back behind the arena on the water. And Riley's out there and all of the Heat players. What is that for season ticket holders? They have a big, partying, food, and DJ Irie is blasting records and everything. And it's real nice. And I remember Wade, after doing like what would be considered an insufferable number of interviews, comes over to our place, does another interview, and we thank him. You know how it goes, Lubie. Oh, thanks so much. And he was very sincere in saying, no, thank you for coming out here. And I thought, wow, that guy really means that. Which he was very gracious in that regard. Worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. How weird is it, though, that the Basketball Hall of Fame is all inclusive, where it's college and pro players?
It sort of sucks. I feel like it takes something.
How does the NBA not have its own individual Hall of Fame? Lubie?
I don't get that. I understand inclusive and letting the women get a chance and college greats get a chance. But okay, why don't they have their own?
Well, why wouldn't there just be a collegiate Hall of Fame?
I don't understand it. I'm sorry, but it takes fucking away from it. Like the greats aren't alone. Like you get guys like Christian Laettner was a good college player. He sucked in it. Fine. He ended up having a decent NBA career. He's not a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Like Tracy McGrady was hurt for like 80% of his career. He's not a Hall of Famer. Like, but they're in the same place as Wade. Like Wade is a first ballot, like top 25, top 30, top 20, whatever you want to put him. Great of all time. So like he made it. It's amazing he's there. But like the last few years, you've seen a lot of randoms get in.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. Is Pau Gasol really a Hall of Famer? Pau Gasol.
Maybe, but like some of these.
He was on a couple of teams, championship teams with Kobe and the Lakers. But was he that great? I mean, when you think of the great centers in the game, was Pau Gasol one of them?
Hey, look, he was a great
Pau Gasol.
I don't mind Pau Gasol, but some of these women, like they're putting women that I've never heard of, but they were like great.
Becky Hammond, who was the protege there of Popovich. Popovich gets in, which obviously has the credentials that he would be a first-time consideration. But you had a bunch of other guys. Jim Valvano just made it into the Hall of Fame. Jim Valvano. What does that have to do with
the NBA? Like it's like I don't understand it. It's like some of them are Hall of Famers in their own right. That's fine, but like they're in the wrong fucking Hall of Fame. Like I don't understand like this. Well, they had like why is there not an NBA Hall of Fame? Like it's the weirdest.
I don't understand why they wouldn't want to capitalize on something like that.
I think it's dumb.
What was it that they were like so lacking in prominence when these things were founded that they wouldn't have stood on its own? The NBA.
I don't get it.
How could they not have established their own Hall of Fame at some point in time, even if it was like in the 70s or something?
Yeah, exactly. Even like by now, you deserve your own Hall of Fame. Like it's a weird thing.
Kind of weird, yeah. What is it? The Naismith Hall of Fame? That's
yes,
when it's
the Basketball Hall of Fame. So like high school and college and women and overseas Euros, and it's like, okay.
It's a little insane, isn't it? I refuse to accept, by the way, I don't know how you feel about this, that the rest of the world has caught up with the United States of America when it comes to basketball.
They haven't.
When I see these NBA teams and their U.S. representatives, and obviously from the NBA, you have many European players now that are prominent playing for other countries, but I still expect the USA to annihilate all of them, don't you? I mean, never mind Spain. Get out of here with that.
Well, what it is, look, if they did a world team, yes, because Giannis and Luka and Jokic.
I would still expect the U.S. team to kick their ass.
No. The world team put together be the best team right now. Like the top five, I just named 4 of the top 5 players in the league. None of them are American. But here's the thing. They're all from different fucking countries.
Yes.
So when you do...
They're splintered throughout the universe.
Countries separated.
Yeah.
Do the countries separated? America is still the most concentrated talent in one country. Like it still is. Like
we should wipe the floor with these guys. I mean, it's like the Dream Team when they were beating Romania like 126-40. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that anymore. It's not to that degree because some of these countries do have repetition of talent. But
we should not be losing the World Baseball Classic.
No. Well, like we're still the best.
Cambodia should not be able to come in here with a team and be a factor in our ballparks here in the United States of America. Never mind Japan. How are they beating us? What is wrong with the United States of America in terms of international representation? They sent that sorry-ass soccer team out there, right? They're still playing all of these other teams. Australia didn't even have a soccer program a year ago. All of a sudden, they're in the semifinals of the Women's World Cup, and we're home. talking about whether you were going to buy into the idea that Megan Rapinoe deserved like the Congressional Medal of Honor or whatever she got. What was that she got from Joe Biden?
I have no idea.
Was that the Congressional Medal of Honor?
Nobel Prize? I think she got some kind of a Nobel bullshit. Like I think it was like a real
Nobel Prize. Oh my
crazy
God!
ass fucking award.
Very nice. That would be like giving Andy the Nobel Prize for math because he was able to calculate how much $136 exacta would pay if he had it 9 times. Like right like that. He had it. Okay, we're up like a couple of dimes here. All right, we're coming back with more. But anyway, some interesting stuff. I did watch some boxing over the weekend. Will you catch any boxing? No.
Oh no.
It's a good matchup on. It was actually on ESPN. A guy named Navarrete against Valdez. The scoring was very lopsided. The fight itself was probably 8-4, something like that, 9-3 in terms of rounds. But one judge had given all but one round to Navarrete. Good fight though. Wow, it was a Mexican classic, a Bob Arum special there. Brad Jacobs, again, coming up big with top-ranked boxing on ESPN. These guys slugged it out for 12 rounds, Lubie. It was an old-fashioned Mexican bloodbath where one guy's eye, I mean, literally looks like he got hit with a sledgehammer. Completely fucked up. And the other guy had hurt his hand, Navarrete, the guy who won the fight. He had hurt his hand somewhere about midway through the fight. It was pretty clear that he wasn't throwing any rights. And his corner got on him and said, hey, you better get with it here, kid. And all of a sudden, he didn't give a crap anymore. He's firing rights and lefts and throwing punches the rest of the fight. A real good action fight there. And they had some fights on Showtime as well. Weren't quite as compelling, more lopsided. But this guy, Gary Antoine Russell, I guess somebody that you have to watch at 140 pounds there, Libby. Because he's like 18-0, 18 knockouts, and he's icing everybody in the first round. Doesn't look like he's that imposing of a figure, but I believe there are like 9 guys named Gary Russell. It was one of those George Foreman deals where there was a guy named Gary Russell, obviously senior, and he named all of his kids Gary, which is a little confusing. I mean, I think there's like, half a dozen of them, too, and they're all boxers of some significance. Anyway, he looked real good over the weekend as well. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Lubie, unhappy with Dolphin quarterback play and thinks that this is a dire area of concern after the first preseason game. I'm going to venture to say this, that whatever the over-under proposition on yards that Mike White will throw for in preseason game number 2, I'm going to take the over, Libby. The over. Anybody making a score in a preseason yet? Professor, I know he was right about one of the games. I think he liked the Dolphins, though. They lost. John Harbaugh managed to make it 24 straight victories, but I'm thinking they could not have covered the spread, right? They had to be favored at home. The Ravens, they only won by a point. And but anyway, now 24 straight preseason games they've won. That's sick, huh? It's almost impossible. You would almost prefer, I mean, I don't want to go Coco Cameron on this, but you'd almost prefer like a loss. Just to say, okay, good. I mean, we weren't fully vested in winning these games, but I guess it works for Harbaugh. It's not like he was out there playing Lamar Jackson or anything like that. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
Time.
8:45. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Ron DeSantis is it true, Lubie? Did you see this new image of him? Is that what he's walking around with a Hitler mustache now? Has he done it? He just completely snapped. Said, hey, listen, I'm going to come clean with you people. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm coming from. I always love this, too, that these Republican elected officials are the first to point out that there was nothing but massive fraud in the 2020 presidential election, and yet they somehow managed to get elected.
Yes.
Probably in the most crooked state in the world, Florida, where there's been scandal before, and it did impact presidential election, and in fact, probably could have been the whole swing of the Al Gore George Bush thing, right? What was going on in Florida? Remember the guy with the glasses, the thick glasses, and he was looking at that. Yeah. It was kind of like
the Chad.
You're looking at a Melvina Lathan scorecard and trying to figure out how she gave the champ only one round.
Yeah, it was a load of garbage.
Pretty incredible. But anyway, the most crooked state. And this guy very proudly beats his chest and says, oh, yeah, well, what we're doing in Florida, see, we won that by like 20 points.
Yeah, so why was that not cheating?
No question, Ronnie boy, that had to be on the level, that one. Yeah.
Is that not cheating?
Which I'm sure it was, but nonetheless.
Exactly.
How do you then cry about, they wouldn't be in a position to cry about it if it wasn't for the fact that they got elected somehow.
When we win, it's not cheating. When we lose, it's cheating. That's an interesting theory to set up.
How great is that, man?
So you never lose. You just
That's the Donald Trump school of logic. It comes right from it. It doesn't matter. Right? Are you kidding? How could they be picking on me like this? Incredible. What phone call?
Okay.
Right? He's on the phone with Zelensky. Hey, you better find something on Hunter Biden there, Vlad. I'm going to call my friend Putin, and this thing will accelerate far more quickly, and you won't have any chance of fighting these guys off. Zero. That was considered to be okay by these guys, which, they let that one go. Remember the Republicans?
100%.
Impeachment, right? I mean, here's a guy, you should have immediately had him out of office. Saying if it's even like a question, right? They suspend ball players for far less, don't they?
Yeah.
With, I just saw in one of the preseason games, Calvin Ridley, he got back in the league. A year this guy had to sit out. For what? Making a couple of bets on some football games. Don't know how all of that is going to play out. All right. Great stuff, though. I mean, I'm inspired. Los Marlins, are you all in now, Lubie? Are you back?
I mean, I don't know about all in. I'm keeping an eye on them, and I hope they keep hanging around. Like, that would be nice to take this through the year. If they can make the playoffs, that'd be amazing. But at least just be relevant. Like, have a whole year. They've never really had an entire year. Well, I guess 97, they had an entire year of relevant. But outside of 97, they've never
2003, I mean, when they won the World Series.
Remember, you were there in September. It was still
nobody cared. Yeah, it was empty.
They weren't really in it. They were still like, it was like, if you're over 5 games out of the, look.
And there were less wild card teams then.
People didn't think they were making the playoffs that year. Like, I had an interesting idea because I know they love Derek Lee. My dad hated Derek Lee, and I'm like, no, they really liked it. And then they went and got Pudge, and Pudge was still something. And I'm like, that's interesting that they're going to get a veteran guy. They have this really young club. Maybe it'll work. So I had an eye on that team, but like they weren't good all year. It wasn't like they were a playoff team. Like this team was at one point was 14 games over 500, and even though that disintegrated, they still never got two. They've always been over 500 this entire year. I don't remember another year where they were over 500 the entire year outside of 97. So if they can maintain that and keep being in the playoff hunt the entire year, that would be nice. It would be nice to have that for an entire year. If they could turn it into a playoff run, that'd be even better. But like they went and made moves. Like if they can do it all year, you know, I haven't poo-pooed them. It was just annoying to see them lose 5 in a row, 8 of 9 right after making all those moves. Yeah. But if you can right the ship, cool. Like it would be nice to see.
Right the ship. I mean, look at these moves, man. They're nothing but strokes of pure Kim Eng genius at this point. This Berger is just a strikeout machine now. He's hitting solid line drives like he was Luis Ariz. Has it ever happened before? I'm going to say yes to this, but I wouldn't be able to give you an example where somebody has led one league in batting average one year and then gone to the other league and led the league in batting average that year. Has that ever happened in subsequent seasons in consecutive?
Yes, but I don't know.
Where one player has led either the American League first or, you know, whichever way, but in 2 seasons led both the American and National League in batting average and won the batting title in both leagues in a 2-year span, consecutive years, different leagues. I want to say yes to that. I don't know. I mean, can you think of anybody that might have been a candidate to do that?
Yeah, like John Olerud, when he was like a really good average guy, I know he didn't just play on one team. Like I feel like he moved around a little bit. Like, so I could see
who's that now?
John Olerud. Like I remember
Olerud, yeah, okay.
He was a guy, you know, that was really good at hitting, and I don't think he was like with one team his whole career. So maybe him. But otherwise, like Gwynn, who was a great average guy, was with one team forever. Williams, a great average guy, one team forever. Like
some guy like Frank Robinson, you know.
A lot of the great hitters were usually maybe with the Angels. What the
I mean, think about it. You have to. You don't get that many back-to-back, league champions in batting average. Less so today than even back in the day. But to lead each league one year after another, I'm thinking that, that could be unprecedented what we're seeing here. But at the same time, I want to say that it's happened before. That's sitting on the fence on that one, Lubie, but I really don't know. I was going to try to research that. I guess that would not be the simplest thing to look up unless you just shout it into your phone. Hey, has anybody ever led one league and then the other in batting average?
May have just happened. DJ LeMahieu. Batting title Sunday. I guess he led it for the Rockies in 2016. I don't know if he may have done it.
When he went to the Yankees.
I don't know if it was back-to-back years.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1 year he did in the AL and then another year he did in the NL, but I don't know.
Back-to-back years.
I don't know if it was back-to-back years.
All right, we'll have to find that out. That'll be our big project. And then Messi Mania continued over the weekend, right? I mean, and once again, Lubie, I started to mention this. I asked you if you ever played that hockey board game when we were talking about Messi, because one of the things was to center the puck and then just take the center that you had. Okay, so you would dig it out of the corner. The guy would flick it into the middle of the board.
It wasn't soccer. It was hockey.
Hockey, yeah, and then you would shove the stick, down the middle, right? So that the center man, you would have him like holding the stick, solid sideways, and just shove it down there, and then that would knock the puck into the goal. And I'm seeing a bunch of goals like that being scored by Messi, where there's just like nobody in front of him.
Yes,
and he's standing in front of the goalie. I mean, literally, like he's smoking a cigarette there in front of the goaltender, and just standing there. And then all of a sudden, somebody, shoots one out of the corner. It curls over to Messi, bounces it off his chest, off his chin, off his nose, twists the ball, like twirls it on his foot for a while, and then boom, knocks it into the net, and there's nobody around him.
This one game, they were up. The game was already
over. Another goal. He scored in every game he's played in this.
The game was over. They were up 3-0, and at the end of the game, near the end of the game, they got a corner in, and the one guy, I think it was Martinez, was futzing with it, and out of nowhere, he finds Messi clean, and Messi puts it in clean.
There's never anybody within 10 yards of Messi. How is that possible?
He just
they call it marking because of the stupidity of the vernacular of the game. Where the field is a pitch somehow.
Yes.
And then this guy is, nobody's defending him. Nobody.
Just always
not even close. And what is his record for consecutive games with a goal scored on any level?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, you probably have to go back to whatever the equivalent in Argentina is of Pop Warner soccer.
Yeah.
Because he scored in every game that he's been in, has he not?
Yes, he has.
Every game, 2 goals in a couple. And, I guess the other 2 games, he's had 1 goal. So, and probably going to lead the league in scoring by the time he's done.
Honestly.
The MLS. When's the next time he's on the pitch, Lubie? We'll have to check that out. Messi mania. Has it died down? Because there are pictures of Messi everywhere around town. And nobody bothers the guy. It has to be just an absolute outright pleasure for this guy to live here in South Florida right now, where he can still maintain his international superstardom and essentially be walking around relatively incognito. Because even though he's going to be pestered by the occasional person that wants to take a selfie with Messi, still, I mean, by comparison to the kind of mob scene I would imagine that he created anywhere he went in the past, this has to be the greatest thing that ever happened to him. He's making money. He's in there against a bunch of, subpar players by his standards and is able to dominate. Everybody loves him. And the team hasn't lost a game since he arrived on the scene.
Yeah.
And this doormat, this absolute flat as a pancake, dead in the water, dead man walking soccer organization where what was being said about the Jorge Nomas regime there? Not that anybody cared overwhelmingly so, but it was like, well, geez, this is one of the dumbest organizations we've ever seen in any sport. And now look at them, Lubie. They're the poster child for success, my friend. Lionel Messi. Oh, by the way, I mean, Neymar sold out. He could have come to the MLS, no? Neymar from Brazil, he's going to the Saudis.
Oh, he actually is the guy that's going to take the fucking money.
Neymar, yeah. They love paying has-beens or people that are, at the very tail end of their careers to come in and play against an inferior field and look like they still have it. Like Phil Mickelson, now Neymar fits into the category there.
Ronaldo's already there. Ronaldo's been there.
$110 million a year for Neymar. Have you even heard his name mentioned ever? Even Phil Shane probably forgot who this guy was.
Yeah, it's been a while since he was a factor.
Long time coming. All right, we're going to make way for later on today, the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show here on South Florida Live. Check that out. Did a little dining. Like I said, the Costas thing was good. Well, what should you pay for like 10 wings, Libby? What's a good going rate now? I know they skyrocketed in price.
16, 17.
$16? Okay, that's right there. All right. Pizza was dynamite. I would have to say that. And then what else did I do? I had some other dining experience.
They make a spanakopita that's really good. And then they do the, if you like the grape leaves, stuffed grape leaves, they do that really well too, the dolmades.
Oh, yeah. No, they're good.
Really nice.
Yeah. 49th Street off of Federal Highway. Good spot. All right, we'll see you at 12 o'clock today with Mike Mayo on the Lunchbox Show. For Mike Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks to Brett Tessler for joining us. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 8:59.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.